Mangwana ni mwalelepo fukenjani, Klas Dumelang Manave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show that remains your portal into Africa's most potent stories. Later in the show, we're going to be zoning in on the Namibia EU Business Forum. But prior to that, these are some of the top stories from broader Africa. IMF signals progress in Zambia program talks. Macron's Africa finance push faces scrutiny at Nairobi summit. Former Nigerian minister handed 75-year sentence in corruption case. And BRICS foreign ministers gather in India amid Iran war divisions. Creative NA magazine unveiled at Namibia EU Business Forum. DSTV 285, GoTV 25, OneUp2.com, Network Media Hub, and ntvafrica.my.na. That's Africa with a K. That is where you can precisely watch the show. My name is Ashwin Berry. Top stories shortly.
Namibia is a land of movement, with waves that never stop reaching forward. Here, adventure is not something we search for. It is something we are born into. In every corner of this country, creativity rises, from artists, from athletes, from dreamers. And when the world comes to explore Namibia, they discover something extraordinary. Because when sport moves people, creativity moves ideas, and tourism moves the world toward us. Something powerful happens. A platform where movement meets imagination, where industries connect, where opportunity grows, where Namibia's next chapter begins. Welcome to the Creative Sport Tourism Expo. Exhibit, partner, experience. Creative sport tourism.
In our top stories, the International Monetary Fund says discussions with Zambia over a new support program have advanced, with negotiations expected to continue after the country's general elections in August. The comments followed an IMF staff visit to Lusaka held between April 30 and May 13. In a statement released, the fund said Zambian authorities had reaffirmed a strong commitment to a fund-supported program after the elections. The program is expected to be anchored in sound macroeconomic policies and fiscal consolidation while still protecting social and other priority spending. The Washington-based lender said maintaining Zambia's recent economic gains remained a key challenge due to this year's elections and broader global economic uncertainty. The IMF has also noted that fiscal pressures had intensified this year, with Zambia's primary surplus now projected at 1.1% of gross domestic product compared to 3.8% projected during the final review of the previous support program. Zambia's most recent IMF program ended in January after total disbursements of $1.7 billion supported the country through a prolonged debt restructuring process. President Hakainde Hichilema is seeking re-election in August. French President Emmanuel Macron announced $27 billion in new investments during the Africa Forward Summit in Nairobi, where he also met university students and jogged alongside Kenyan marathon star Eliud Kipchoge. Despite the pledges, analysts said Macron's proposals for Africa's debt-strapped economies and reforms to the international financial system fell short of expectations around debt relief and payment pauses. Hannah Ryder of Development Reimagined said France had opportunities to shift the international financial architecture, but instead proposed measures that would preserve the current system. One of the proposals discussed what was a first loss guarantee mechanism designed to absorb initial investment losses and attract private investors. French officials said the wider aim was to make international development finance more coordinated and less complex for recipient countries. African leaders, including Kenya's President William Ruto, have pushed for reforms to credit rating systems, arguing Africa's risk profile is overstated. Civil society groups, including Afrodad and Oxfam France, also called on France to support debt cancellations for Global South countries requesting assistance. More than 30 African leaders attended the summit alongside French and African business executives. Now, former Nigerian Power Minister Saleh Mamman has been sentenced to 75 years in prison after being convicted of laundering 33.8 billion naira linked to government-funded power plants, and that's around $23 million. Now, Mamman, who served as Power Minister between 2015 and 2021 under former President Muhammadu Buhari, was found guilty of 12 counts, including using private firms to funnel money connected to the projects. The 68-year-old was sentenced in absentia after the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission said he had been out of circulation and without trace since his conviction last week. Earlier this week, a high court in Abuja issued an arrest warrant for him. Mamman has not publicly commented on the conviction, though weeks before sentencing, he announced plans to contest for governor of Taraba State in the 2027 elections under the ruling All Progressives Congress Party. During sentencing, the court ordered him to repay 22 billion naira. The case forms part of a broader anti-corruption campaign targeting former Nigerian government officials. Mamman's conviction has also reignited public frustration over Nigeria's electricity crisis, with households and businesses still facing frequent blackouts and heavy dependence on fuel-powered generators nationwide. Now, foreign ministers from BRICS countries began a two-day meeting in New Delhi yesterday as the bloc navigates divisions over the war in Iran, rising energy prices, and broader global uncertainty. The meeting brings together diplomats from founding members Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, alongside newer member states including Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, the United Arab Emirates, and Indonesia. The ministers are expected to discuss economic cooperation and coordinate positions on key international issues. Opening the meeting, Indian Foreign Minister Subrahmanyan Jaishankar said the world was experiencing considerable flux driven by conflicts, economic uncertainty, and challenges in trade, technology, and climate matters. He said emerging markets and developing countries increasingly expected BRICS to play a constructive and stabilizing role globally. Jaishankar also stressed the importance of safe and unimpeded maritime flows through international waters while the Strait of Hormuz remains under blockade. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi urged BRICS members to condemn what he described as unlawful aggression by the United States and Israel against Tehran. The meeting comes as ceasefire tensions continue to threaten stability. BRICS was founded by Brazil, Russia, India, and China before South Africa joined in 2010. The bloc has since expanded and continues pushing for greater influence within the global order dominated by Western-led institutions. Those have been our top stories on Africa Good Morning. Shortly, we return with updates from the Namibia EU Business Forum, which took place this week. But prior to that, it's the weather. right, let's dig into news updates from the Namibia EU Business Forum. Now, at the NIPDB's, that's Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board's thematic session on building a stronger cultural and creative industries ecosystem, Ragnar Sill unpacked the essential building blocks needed for the sector's growth. Part of his presentation explored the growing role of AI and how emerging technologies are beginning to reshape creativity, innovation, and opportunity across the cultural economy. Ragnar Sill is from the European Cultural and Creative Industries Innovation Policy Platform.
And then, of course, we must talk about artificial intelligence. We are living through the most profound technological shift since the arrival of internet. AI is rewriting how content is made, how it is consumed, and how it is monetized. This is a moment of enormous opportunity and a moment of real risk for creators. If we get this wrong, we will hurt the very people whose work has trained these systems. If we get it right, AI becomes a tool in the hands of human creators, a powerful collaborator that lets a small studio here in Windhoek compete with the biggest players in the world. Europe's position is clear. Artificial intelligence must work with creators, not against them. It must respect copyright, reward authorship, and remain transparent. Because in an age when machines can generate almost anything, even minister speeches as we heard, the value of an authentic human voice and a real cultural identity, an original story rooted in a real place, the value goes up, not down. And let us not forget, the World Economic Forum lists creativity among the most essential skills of the 21st century. Not coding, not AI, creativity. The ability to see what isn't there yet and to bring it to life. And this leads me to my final point, and a more personal one.
Now, at the Business Forum, I had the opportunity to talk to Twahafa Neshuku, who is involved in the Invest in Africa Summit, which is set to take place later this month in Swakopmund. As I said, we are right here at the Namibia EU Business Forum, and we promised you that we will be talking to Namibians who are going to be trailblazing, not just now, but as the future comes through. And who better than Twahafa Neshuku to come and tell us about their initiative. Twahafa, who do you work with?
My name is Twahafa Neshuku, as you mentioned. I am with Africa Economic Leadership Council as a project manager for the upcoming Invest in Africa Trade Expo and Conference happening in Swakopmund.
Tell us a bit about the Africa Economic Leadership Council.
So it was established in 2021 by the co-founders, Mr. Heinrich Afeni and then Mr. Percy Koji, his South African counterpart. The main aim actually of why they decided to establish Africa Economic Leadership Council was to create a network for African companies and African businesses, SMEs, corporates, policymakers to just come together and discuss continental issues.
This is naturally then complementary to the Africa Continental Free Trade Area.
Exactly. So part of what we are aiming to do is to create awareness around the free trade agreement area, which is a flagship program by the Africa Union. So even if you look at our program, like our theme is very much unpacking the AFCFTA and what it entails for African entrepreneurs and what it means for a smaller guy like an SME.
I love it. So it's not just about Namibia, it's about connecting Africans in a borderless manner, if you will, without a doubt. And of course, whilst, making sure all regulations are followed.
Yeah.
But you spoke about the expo. There's an expo coming through very soon. Tell us about that.
So the Invest in Africa platform is an annual platform. In previous years, we called it Discover Namibia. So this is basically a platform where all the investment talks happen, trade connections are made across the continent. So we invite African entrepreneurs, policymakers, business leaders from Nigeria, South Africa, Ghana, the rest of Africa, SADC especially, to just come together on the platform and then establish business linkages, collaboration, and then networks.
When is it? Where is it going to be happening?
Taking place on the 28th to the 30th of May in Swakopmund.
All right, Swakopmund, what a lovely place to be. Please come through, Zambians, Zimbabweans. We know you love the beach in Namibia. Come through and let's do business as well. Any word to potential investors, to people who would want to come and showcase their businesses? Anything you'd like to say to them before we wrap up?
I mean, it's an open invitation. Everybody is invited. We have our policymakers, we have keynote speakers from our government, the Minister of Trade. These are platforms that you do not want to miss as an investor because there's a lot of investment opportunities currently now. It's sectoral, it doesn't even, there's tourism, you have hospitality, you have emerging energies, oil and gas. So the conversation is very much investment. And I obviously urge everybody in Namibia, especially SMEs, SOEs, government, embassies to join the conversation, join the platform. And then we also have a closing Africa Day Gala dinner in celebration of Africa Day, which is on the 25th, but then we've extended it to the 30th.
Yes.
So we'll be closing off very strong, celebrating Africa.
You know if there's one. That was Twahafa Neshuku of the Invest in Africa Summit. I also had the opportunity to speak to Namibian visual creative artist Jackson Karipo. I am now joined by Mr. Jackson Karipo, a creative artist who is right here at the Namibia EU Business Forum because, as you know, the creative industry is not a micro industry, it is a macro industry, and we are always excited about everyone participating in it. Mr. Karipo, how are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. How are you, my brother?
I'm good, I'm good. I'm looking at your wonderful art. It is incredible. I'm seeing abstract pieces. I'm seeing symmetrical pieces. The first thing I'm curious about is, how did you start?
It was, how should I say? I was born to be an artist.
Wow.
Yes, you know, like I just imagine from trying to become an architect, studying diesel mechanic that I could not fit in, and eventually going for graphic design. But then the final decision was a doctor telling me to say, Jackson, your eyesight is going bad. And a lot of other things. But then the final decision was, Jackson, what are you very good and passionate about? That's how today I can tell you that I'm a very passionate artist.
Wow.
They chose me. I did not choose art.
Yes.
Yes.
Art chose you.
Yes.
And you know, when you work with more than just the craft itself, you're working from a place of purpose. It's something you can do forever.
Yes.
Without a doubt. And so you're here at the Namibia EU Business Forum
Yes, yes.
with your creative work. Tell us a bit about it.
Oh, okay. Last year, the Estonians were here. You know, like the culture and heritage event that took place at Avani Hotel.
Yes.
They, at the end of the day, they ran a competition. And our group, the Creative Field, we actually won the prize, first prize.
Wow.
And they chose us to represent the company.
All right.
Yeah, the heritage company. And because our art was actually the overall winner.
Wow.
So I'm actually representing not just myself, the creator, but also like the people that kind of like believe in the art.
Wow.
Yes,
that's incredible.
yes. Yeah.
And what's it been like for you navigating the creative economy? We know in Namibia we're still struggling with structure. There is energy.
Yeah.
What's it been like for you as an artist who makes a living from their art?
I have to tell you, art is that profession that nobody believes in. But we all know that art is one of those careers that is actually up there, the pinnacle of everything creative around it. Now, when you kind of like fight a stigma to say, when you're like in the creative field of an artist, it's almost like the world does not believe that it's
a real
important.
thing.
Yes, it's a real thing. But I have to tell you to say, take any career, whether it's like architecture, whether it's like a doctor, whether it's like the guy building the building, or the guy that is like a building that famous building, who's behind it? It's the creative person that is an artist.
Person.
Yes. You see, like I just imagine, even like with today's health sector, you know, like the best doctors, they could not really just focus on the academics.
No.
But you know, like the hand material that you're using, the equipment, who designed it?
The artist.
The artist, exactly.
Wow.
So art plays a pinnacle role to say, whatever you are, whatever creative field you are, you're playing a very important role.
So,
now,
yes.
Now for me, being this, you know, like I just imagine, I'm kind of like, I call myself to say I'm like a dead guy in real estate.
What does that mean? Explain that.
Yes, real estate, you know, like I think when I was in school, you know, like the basic things was like food, clothing, and the house that you stay in.
Yes.
Now just imagine how many houses are all over the world, how many houses are...
Now, the inaugural edition of the Creative NA magazine was officially launched during the Namibia EU Business Forum, in a moment highlighting Namibia's expanding culture and creative industries sector. The launch brought together Ragnar So from the European Cultural and Creative Industries Innovation Policy Platform, Jessica Hawanga, acting CEO of the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board, Nangula Nelulu Wanja, Executive Director of Emerald Sand Platforms, and Ashwin Bedi, Editor of Creative NA Magazine, and of course your Africa Good Morning presenter. The publication was introduced as a platform dedicated to showcasing Namibian storytellers, artists, innovators, performers, and cultural entrepreneurs. The launch formed part of a broader discussion around the role of creative industries within economic development and investment conversations taking place during the Namibia EU Business Forum. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be saying goodbye as you witness the launch of Creative NA. See you next week. Suraj Zaganaka.
Really a pivotal moment. I started to work in the Estonian Ministry of Culture 21 years ago. I was the very first person in Estonian history that had the word creative industries included in the job description. I know it because I came up with the word in Estonian. And 21 years ago, in 2005 when we started, the sector was scattered. There was lots of creative potential, but it was all over the place. And the very first thing we did, we didn't have money right away to start building incubators, programs, financing. The very first thing we did was something like that. We did a magazine which brings different cultural expressions and creative expressions under one roof, here between the pages. So I think this is really important in order to share the story, keep on storytelling, and highlighting the amazing potential that is here. But the second thing I want to congratulate with this magazine is that even nowadays in Europe, in Estonia, in many countries, when you think about culture creative industries, you immediately think of established sector. So you would definitely find an article on museum, maybe an opera house, you would definitely find a jewelry designer and things like that, right? But when I opened this and read through and I saw pieces about DJs, poetry, religion, the story of the church, and many others, fashion, I found that this is really inclusive work that you've done, showing that culture creative industries is not just a few famous recognized sectors, but it's much wider. And that is the strength, not your weakness.
Brilliant. And for the record, he writes as good as he speaks. We also have a piece inside the magazine, Madam Jessica. Please.
All right, thank you for the opportunity. Creative NA. This is more than just a magazine. It is a living archive of Namibia's creativity, innovation, and our cultural identity, giving our storytellers, artists, and visionaries a platform to be seen not only in Namibia, but across Africa and the world. Launching Creative NA here at the CST Expo stand during our Namibia European EU Summit, it is a reminder that creativity, sport, and tourism are not side conversations to development. They are industries of opportunity, growth, and youth empowerment and national storytelling. Namibia remains committed to the creativity or to creative and sports sectors, and we look forward to seeing the industry participate at the CST Expo on 2 to the 4th of September 2026, as well as participating in the related pre and post activities.
And the final word,
Yes. The final words just to say thank you very much. This was really a piece that is not the result of one organization, it's the result of the industry. It is something that we coordinated, and we would like to call on all Namibians in this sector to join hands with us so that we can help to make sure that our children who aspire to be creators, they can no longer see that as a hobby or anything. It is a career that they can take up and they can work on it to make sure that they provide for themselves and their families. So a few words of thank you. Thank you very much, Ragnar. Thank you very much, Jessica, for being here with us. And as it's been said, please see you on the 2nd to the 4th of September 2026 at the CST Expo. And yes, engage with us as we plan for that expo. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.